If you haven't heard of Alex Hormozi by now, you've probably been living under a rock. He's the guy who's built a billion-dollar business giving away insane amounts of value to regular people like you. Now, what do Alex and I have in common? Besides questionable fashion sense and a love for whiteboards, probably not too much. But here's the connection. Hormozi built a platform called Skool, and I've turned that platform into your ultimate cheat code for the FCLE and the Civics EOC. Forget cramming random worksheets and looking over your teacher's study guide from 2006. This is organized, step-by-step test prep that actually works. Don't believe me? Let me show you how with just an iPhone and less money than a Disney Plus subscription, you can master all concepts for the FCLE and the Civics EOC. Buckle up, kids, we're going to school. As a treat for watching this video, I'm going to review Module 1 with you in depth so you can get a taste of how much value is packed into our FCLE and Civics EOC Masterclass on Skool. But first, let's explore the platform so you can see just how easy test prep can be. All right, guys, so I have my phone out here, right? I'm gonna go ahead and click on the Skool app. So go ahead to the App Store, download the Skool app. It's very, very easy. Set up an account, and then you guys will be all ready to go. If you need help with that, go to the link in the description. So when you get to the homepage, you guys are gonna see the welcome, which is the start here, okay? You're also going to get my welcome letter, which includes the PDF to the FCLE and Civics EOC Master Review Book, okay? The Ultimate Review Book. So if you scroll down, obviously it's over 72 pages of information that you all have at your disposal, all right? Now this resource itself sells for $50 on my website. So even with the subscription price, your monthly subscription price, you're getting something that is so valuable. All right, so the first thing that I want to go over with you is just kind of how the community is laid out. So on the first tab, you have community, okay? Second one, you have your classroom. Third is calendar, all right? You have your leaderboard, okay? You also have your members. Now, obviously, this is my test account, so I put a picture of Hormozi up there just to make sure that I don't get it confused with any of you all right? But I'm gonna go back to community for a second, and then here's the welcome letter. So just go ahead and answer the question here. All right, so I'm gonna go with everything regarding the FCLE, okay? That's just good information for me so I can better help you all in terms of educating you and getting you guys ready for success on the FCLE and the Civics EOC. Now comes the fun stuff. So go ahead and go over to Classroom and then go to the FCLE Civics EOC Masterclass, all right? Now, before we get into all 10 modules here and some of those bonus tests, I want you guys to click on Welcome Start here, all right? And this is gonna be your quick start guide. So all the information that you guys need to know to successfully navigate through the platform is going to be on this quick start guide, right available through the Skool app on your phone, on the computer, on the tablet, whatever it is, all right? So that's where I would go first. The second thing you're gonna wanna do is download the Civics EOC and FCLE ebook, all right? All of the modules are consistent with the content that is on this ebook here, okay? So chapters 1 through 10, plus a bonus chapter, which is chapter 11, which goes through all of these great testing strategies that you can implement on test day. So a lot of value packed into such a small platform here. You know, you can pull this out at your sister's soccer game and go through it, on the bus ride home, right? In the back of your dad's car on a family trip, whatever it is, guys, you have all of this information for the FCLE and the Civics EOC in the palm of your hand, all right? Now, before we get started on taking a look at Module 1, right, because I promised that we're gonna go through Module 1 as a treat for you all watching this video, I wanna go to the bonus and practice tests here, okay? So here, there are 17 resources absolutely free for you to download, all right? So all you have to do is click on the download, and then click download, and you're going to get 17 free resources just for you for being part of our Govdogs community on Skool, all right? Now, this is a $70 bundle if you were to go to my actual store here, and I'm including this for free, guys. This is just part of the deal when you join Skool, all right? So again, tremendous amount of value here. You have $50 worth of the FCLE and the Civics EOC ebook, all right? You have $70 worth of practice tests, all included in that monthly payment, all right? And the last thing that I wanna talk about before we get into the first module here is our live sessions, okay? So through the calendar portion, right? I have the ability to schedule live sessions with you all. Now, I know the majority of you take this test either in November or December, and then April and May in the spring, all right? During those times, I'm going to give you access to free live streams. You guys can just pop on with your phone, head into the live stream. I'll have some extra practice activities for you. I'll be able to answer any questions that you might have before test day. So this really is the best value in terms of this FCLE and the Civics EOC on the internet. This is the best place to be. We've had 10,000 students or so, just over 10,000, downloading our resources, okay? Having some really good success on this. Now, go through my other videos, go through, check the comments, right? All of these people are having true success on the FCLE, and that's exactly what I want for you all. So without further ado, okay, I'm gonna go to the FCLE Masterclass. I'm going to click on Module 1, and let's get started on our Civics EOC and our FCLE test prep. All right, welcome everybody to Module 1. Before we get started in Module 1, I hope that you have our FCLE and our Civics EOC Ultimate Review ebook downloaded. If not, please go ahead and do so because that is what all of these modules are predicated upon. All right, so before we get started, if you have some time, go ahead and read the introduction, but also check out this link here. So this is the full library of Civics EOC and FCLE resources at your disposal. So if you go ahead and click on the link, it'll bring you to all of our resources. So if you need additional information or study resources for the FCLE and the Civics EOC, we got you covered there. So our table of contents are going to be kind of the guidelines for each of these modules. So obviously today we are starting with Chapter 1, which is Philosophical Foundations of American Government. All right, but you go all the way down to Chapter 10, and then we also have a bonus chapter, which are some test prep tips for you all to ensure some success on the EOC and the FCLE. So I'm going to zoom in here, and we'll get started on Chapter 1. Again, Philosophical Foundations of American Government. So it's very important to understand that all of the ideas that founded the country did not come to fruition overnight, all right? I like to tell my students that American government and the structure of the American government were highlights of other governments all put together in one. So it's basically like a highlight tape of the top governments throughout history, all put together into one, all right? Today we're going to focus specifically on Enlightenment ideas and how those relate to U.S. government. So one of the most important people that you need to understand in terms of the Enlightenment is John Locke, all right? So John Locke, whenever you get a question regarding him, all right, the answer most likely will have to do with natural rights or the social contract. Okay, so who was he? He was an English philosopher whose ideas changed the world, okay? He argued that people were born with natural rights, and these rights are life, liberty, and property. Now, if that sounds familiar, it's because Thomas Jefferson actually paraphrased him and used life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. All right, so this guy, John Locke, isn't just some random historical figure. He was one of the most influential people in terms of Thomas Jefferson writing the Declaration of Independence, and all of those ideas kind of culminated in that document. All right, so governments, he said, are formed through a social contract. Now, this is an agreement between the people and the government, all right? So a social contract basically states that you give up some rights, and in turn for giving up those rights, the government is going to protect you. For example, you can't just go around and, rob people or assault people, right, without that potential happening to you. So what the idea is you give up your absolute freedoms, those like running around and, punching people in the head or stealing things from them, in order for the government to protect your right to not have yourself either assaulted or robbed in that situation, okay? So basically what the social contract is you giving up some of your freedoms, and in return, the government is going to protect your rights, okay? And again, these ideas are kind of personified in the Declaration of Independence. So when we're thinking about John Locke, the biggest ideas are natural rights, life, liberty, and property, and the idea of the social contract. You give up some rights, and in turn, the government protects you. Now, Montesquieu. So his name is Baron de Montesquieu. He is another very influential Enlightenment thinker, and his major idea is the separation of powers, all right? So Montesquieu argued that you shouldn't, when you're forming a government, put all the power in the hands of one person. It should be separated throughout multiple branches, okay? And we see this idea in the Constitution with our legislative, executive, and judicial branches. So again, just like John Locke, Okay, when you see a question regarding Montesquieu, the answer is probably going to be separation of powers, and this is just the idea that you're taking power and you're separating it amongst branches of government. Now, popular sovereignty and the consent of the governed kind of go hand in hand. So what popular sovereignty is basically the power of the government comes from the people. If you take a look at all of your elected representatives, the only reason that they have power is because you elected them, right? So the power for them to operate the government comes from you as the citizen voting to put them into power. Now, the consent of the governed basically states that in voting for somebody to represent you, you also agree to follow whatever rules or laws that they pass, all right? So this principle is kind of highlighted with we the people, okay, in popular sovereignty. The power of the government comes from the people, all right? And popular sovereignty is the reason why we have elections in the first place. Now, the rule of law specifically states that nobody is above the law, okay? Doesn't matter if you're the president, doesn't matter if you are a teacher like myself, if you're a lawyer, if you are a custodian at a high school. It doesn't matter, the law applies to you evenly, all right? Now, this is an important kind of like cornerstone of democracy because the way that American government is set up in the first place is so that there is no tyrannical force that can oppress the people. One of the ways to make sure that that doesn't happen is the idea of the rule of law. Limited government is the idea that the government is limited in some capacity. In most cases, it's limited by a constitution. All right, so in the United States, the president, people in Congress, right, regular citizens can't do anything that they want whenever they want because their powers are limited by a document. In this case, it is the Constitution. So the idea of limited government really spawns from the Magna Carta. So just like John Locke and Montesquieu, okay? If you have a question about limited government, chances are they're talking about the Magna Carta and vice versa. Very important to understand that, okay? So limited government is, basically exactly what it sounds like. It is the government being limited by some sort of document, all right? Individual liberty is pretty self-explanatory. It just means that people have certain things like freedom of speech and religion. Personal property and privacy must be protected, and governments must respect the rights of the people. Over time, these ideas have expanded. That's why the Constitution is such an interesting document. It allows certain ideas to fit the current culture of the United States. So individual liberties are always expanding, and you can see that through some of the amendments that were passed. So republicanism, people get confused and they think that we're talking about the Republican Party. So the two major parties in America are the Democrats and the Republicans. When we're talking about republicanism, what we're talking about is the idea of the republic, okay? A representative democracy. We're not talking about the specific party, okay, known as the Republicans. We're talking about the idea that we have a representative democracy in the United States. Now, what a representative democracy is, all right? You vote for leaders, and then those leaders go ahead and make decisions on your behalf. The reason why we have a republic instead of a direct democracy is because the country is way too large, all right? Average citizens can't just go show up in Washington, D.C. and vote on issues in person because that's just an inefficient way of doing government. So what a republic is, all right, is those citizens go ahead and they elect an official. That official goes to D.C. or your state capital, in my case would be Tallahassee, and they go and vote on issues on your behalf, right? Remember, they work for you, okay? All of these elected officials work for you. Their job is to make decisions on your behalf, and that is the idea of the republic. Now, these principles obviously matter because they affect your daily life, whether it's Supreme Court decisions, debates over government power, or the ways laws are made and enforced. All right, understanding these key principles is a good hedge against you being taken advantage of by the media or the government. So the more that you understand about these concepts, the easier it is for you to navigate your citizenship and your interaction with the government. So I'd say the biggest things that you all need to focus on here for this chapter are the following. Natural rights and the social contract, all right? Those two ideas should be tied to John Locke. Okay, separation of powers and checks and balances. Those two ideas should be tied to Montesquieu. And then you just kind of need to know some vocab here. So popular sovereignty, the idea that the power of the government comes from the people. The rule of law, meaning that no person is above the law. Everybody has to follow the law to the same extent. Limited government, meaning there is some sort of document or idea that limits the power of government. All right, a lot of times this will be connected to the idea of the Magna Carta. Individual liberty, meaning people have the right to freedom and to kind of live their life the way that they'd like. And republicanism, again, is not about the Republican Party. It's about the fact that we have a representative democracy. Right? Now, use these ideas to go ahead and answer questions 1 through 8, all right? And then obviously the answers are down below. Do your best not to take a look at those answers until you've taken the quiz. I know it's very tempting since you can just kind of scroll down and take a look at the answers, but really do your best on these modules and through these chapters to read through thoroughly, read through all of the questions without going to the answer sheet and doing your best, right? You don't know what you don't know. The best way to know what you need to brush up on is to see what you got wrong. Then you can go back into the text and kind of reanalyze everything, and I'd even recommend taking the quiz again. All right, that's the end of Chapter 1. I will see you in Chapter 2. As you can see, Skool is where it's at for FCLE and Civics EOC test prep. Over $200 worth of resources at your fingertips. Go ahead, search the internet and try to find a better deal. You absolutely cannot. Don't hesitate and leave your testing success to fate. Click the link in the bio and join Skool today.